Hey y'all, I hope you're doing well. This video is going to be titled Awful Jobs for Anxiety. So it's basically what the title says. I'm going to tell you about some awful jobs that I feel like people should not be working with anxiety. What inspired this is that I went on Pinterest to look for jobs that were like good for people with anxiety. If you're wondering why, I have anxiety and I needed some creative ideas. I tend to get really defeated when I look at a college list and there are not that many creative options that I am personally interested in. Or I just look in the newspaper for jobs, or I look on Craigslist or Indeed. It's very difficult for me to find things that I feel like I could do with my personality and with my anxiety. When I looked on Pinterest, what I found was lots of different lists that people had made. Pinterest is wonderful. In no way am I putting Pinterest down. I use Pinterest all the time. You have to remember Pinterest is connected to other websites where people blog and write about all kinds of stuff. So it is not Pinterest's deal. It is these blogs that wrote things that make it look like these are good jobs for people with anxiety. And when I was looking on their list, I was like, what? I don't know about that job being good for people with anxiety. This is based off of my own personal opinion and jobs I have worked before in my life. I can't really give you much of an opinion about jobs I haven't worked, but I want to talk to you about jobs I have worked that have gone pretty bad. So one of the first jobs I want to list is medical. Being in the medical field is high stress. You have to realize that. You have to realize too, you are always going to be surrounded by people, you are going to be surrounded by noise, you are going to be surrounded by emergencies. I know that sounds obvious, and to so many caretaking personalities, that actually sounds really good, because you're thinking, I can help the people, I can make them better. And you have to realize, like, really sit here and hear me on this, that you can't always help the people. Sometimes the people are going to pass away. Sometimes, the injury is not something you can treat. Sometimes the situation is just out of your hands and it is not your decision what gets to happen. Sometimes it can be up to the family. There are so many different things you could see. You could see suicides in certain emergency situations and wrecks, car wrecks with children, with pieces of their body missing. This is the reality of it, guys. I want to be very honest with you because I don't want you with anxiety going into these jobs thinking, I'm going to be fine, this is going to be relaxing. I am inspired and honored by everyone. I applaud everyone in the medical field. It is not an easy job. It takes a lot of training. You can become a CNA, and yes, a technical college can give you a CNA certificate after doing I think it's 9 months to a year's worth of courses or something. I can't remember. I did it when I was a lot younger. I did really well on the tests. I did CNA training in a nursing home, and I decided after that I was not going to be pursuing that field. It was not for me, and everything about that situation made me feel anxious and very concerned that I had spent all this money and that I didn't want to go into this position. But it's just not for everyone. You have to be able to multitask and you have to be able to move fast. Know what you're doing and be able to keep a clear mind and not think about personal things when all these activities are going on and people need your help. It's really hard to do that with anxiety. It's hard to put it down. So medical field is going to be the first one I'm going to tell you about. The second one is going to be the veterinary field. Now, y'all know I have worked in the veterinary field and that I love animals. I have 6 animals. I absolutely love pets. I would make other animals my pets if I could, but my boyfriend said no after 6 pets. So 6 is the limit. I think the limit was actually 3, but I pushed it to 6. Anyway, they're all here. So the veterinary field is pretty wide in the variety of different jobs you could be looking at there. I am mainly referring to the reception area, the front desk, reception, and the veterinary assistant and veterinary techs. So let's start with the up front desk, the people that are going to be greeting you, the people that are answering calls. When you call the vet, everybody does a nice little greeting, and you know, they type you into the computer when you get there, they tell you to have a seat, and you're probably sitting in there thinking, huh, this doesn't look that hard. This looks like something I could do. And if you feel that way, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you came during a really slow period, and that maybe just a couple of people dwindled in, maybe they had one phone call while you were sitting there, and you're just thinking, I want to ask for application. You guys, I've done that. I did it. You know, I understand. Sorry about Charlie. He's been barking all day long. The reality of the situation is, though, I know I said that before, but it was a slow period. Sometimes you can have 20 to 30 people come in at one time. You may be the only one at the front desk. The phone is ringing off the hook. The doctors want you to answer the phone. So they're constantly telling you, you need to answer the phone, or they have a question for you. So you're talking to a person, you're trying to get people on hold, you're trying to answer your doctor. Oh, and you also need to go make some copies for someone. You got it. It is a hard job. It is so hard. I think I would be a veterinary assistant before I would work in reception. I can only speak for like veterinary reception, but I just give those people major props. Now, I remember working at a different veterinary hospital and knowing, like, it was kind of known that the reception made more than other certain areas of the hospital. And I remember thinking that was so unfair. Like, no, I should be paid what the reception's paid. I work just as hard. Well, I did work hard, but in a different way. I worked with the kennel, I worked with the dogs, and I was comfortable there. I do think kennels should have been paid more, but that's a whole nother video. But reception, you guys, they deserve it. They deserve some good pay for what they have to do. It's not easy. And if you are noise sensitive, a lot of people with anxiety are. I have realized that I am, and that it is a symptom of having anxiety. So when those phones are ringing and you have people crowded around your desk staring at you, you have to come up with answers, and you have to answer to doctors, and you have a ton of pressure on you. I don't think that that's the ideal job or situation for someone with anxiety. I can see why you may want to walk out of that job. Now, before you start judging and go like, oh, you're not supposed to walk out of your job, I've done it, and I've seen people do it, okay? It happens. It's not the most, like, amazing idea ever, basically, but people snap, and they can't handle it anymore. So there's that position. Being a veterinary assistant means you do not need a degree. You are assisting the technicians and the veterinarians. You are trained oftentimes. Sometimes people will not train you, and a lot of vets do not have veterinary assistants for their technicians. Sometimes they just have techs and veterinarians because they can't afford to pay for assistants. I worked for a vet that did. So you're thinking, okay, I'm an assistant to a technician. This is not going to be that bad. This is going to be not smooth sailing, but not super difficult either. I would say it was the most difficult job I have ever worked in my entire life. Putting everything together, that was the most difficult. It is for a lot of different reasons. You are trained to drop shots. So you're in a medical field. You are going to see emergencies just like at a hospital. You're going to be experiencing euthanasias with families that are losing their dog. You are going to have to help them through that, and then you're going to have to walk right back in the next room and smile like you're welcoming people to Walmart. Not that those people even smile anyway, because when's the last time you've seen somebody smiling? This is a welcomer at Walmart. Maybe it's just me. I don't know what's going on, but my point is you have to be support for those families, and to switch back and forth with your emotions, it can cause your anxiety to skyrocket. You are also sometimes assisting in surgery. You're setting up surgery. You are doing whatever you were told. You're cleaning up vomit. You're cleaning up diarrhea. You're lifting surgical animals from one place to another. Oftentimes, you know, they soil themselves, so you have to get them onto another towel. Sometimes they come out of surgery really cold. You have to heat up their heat packs and put that on them. You have to help start IVs. You have to know how to respond if medications are due, and you have to do all this and keep your head together. There's a certain time for everything, and being a veterinary assistant, you're expected to do everything. That is not limited to reception. I many times had to answer phones, take notes, and I had help sometimes, but sometimes the other people up front were busy with other people, and I had to figure it out. I really had to figure it out by myself, and just the whole thing was really hard. Now, being a veterinary tech, extreme responsibility. You have to go to school for it. You can go to Penn Foster and do their like 2-year program, I think, and you have to do clinicals at a vet hospital. You're not a veterinarian, and you're paid nowhere near like a veterinarian, but you're paid better than a veterinary assistant. Hopefully. Here's hoping these days. But you're gonna be like actually in surgery assisting the doctor, and you are the one responsible for making sure every single animal in that hospital is getting the correct medication. Not only that, you are giving the medication. And that's not limited to cats that are about to claw out your eyeballs. You ever seen those cats? Those rabid cats that come in? I'm about to say rabid rabbits, but rabid cats? I smile, you guys, but I have seen some things. Aggressive dogs. You got to figure out how to do it. You have to be able to restrain correctly. You've got to be able to hold that restraint for a certain period of time. Now, you're like, oh, I can restrain a cute little kitty. Oh no, we're talking about like a 120-pound aggressive dog. You got to be able to restrain them. So there's a lot involved with this. I know I'm already at 11 minutes, but the veterinary field is not one that I would recommend. What I would recommend if you were super interested in working for a vet hospital, work in the kennel first. The kennel, which is where the daycare, the boarding animals go. You'll have plenty to do. Plenty to do. And if your hospital is like mine, they will be more than happy to give you extra experience on the other side if you would like it. But it gives you a chance to sit back and watch how these people react, how stressed out they are, just the whole entire aspect of the job. So don't give up of your dream of that. I'm just saying, take a step back and work with the dogs and the nice cats and observe, and then figure out if that's really somewhere you want to go. Because for me, it was not. It was not a good position for me. So I am going to list that. The next one I'm going to list is retail. How many of you guys have had a retail job? Just raise your hand. I know, I see the hands going up. Oh, there's some over there. A lot of us. I don't want to say all of us, but at some point in a girl's life, and sometimes a guy's life, people turn to retail as one of their first jobs. I have worked for a New York company. I've worked for Abercrombie & Fitch, and I've worked for the Express. What was that? Express. And all three of them have been miserable. Miserable. And it's not necessarily because of the company itself. Like, nothing's wrong with the clothing. It could be a management problem. I will give it that. It could definitely be. But what the biggest challenge is the amount of multitasking and the amount of pressure that is pushed on you in certain situations to push a credit card. Express was really big on that. They wanted you to push that credit card, and they believed, at least the one I worked at, that you should be hitting the customer at 3 different zones. So I believe like zone 1 was in the front of the store. You'd have like a walkie and you could like talk to the manager, hear what they're saying. So before the people even enter the store, you would see them and you would greet them, and you would automatically go right into your credit card spiel about how they could save 20% today if they open a credit card. Now let me tell you how fun that is when you got teenagers walking in and you're somebody who's been there, you're somebody who's had a credit card debt, and now you gotta try to recycle it and put it on other people. People never want credit cards. Let me just put it that way. At least for me, I didn't do it well. I didn't sell it well because I was not passionate about it. I didn't want them to buy credit cards. So there was that. Zone 2 is in the middle of the store, so they were supposed to get hit again with a second employee asking them about a credit card. Zone 3 is before they actually purchase, and I believe they probably wanted the cashiers to also hit on the credit card. That's 4 times. That's 4 no's. How upset would you be if you went to a retail store and they asked about your credit card, and if you wanted one, a lot of times people will call it a discount card or a different word for credit card, and it's like, oh no, that's a credit card. Excuse me, my nose itches. Whoa. And there was like answering phones, and you have to be able to, in most situations, work a cash register. Thankfully, I never stayed long enough to do that, or I was in a different position. I was like a stalker, or I would make the store look really nice, or I'd be a greeter. I remember being a greeter. And you have to smile, and you have to greet people, and you have to be friendly no matter how miserable you feel inside, no matter how sad you feel. And you also have to oftentimes wear clothing that is in style and that is by the company. Can somebody please explain to me how paying someone minimum wage and asking them to buy a $50 pair of pants and a $40 t-shirt is acceptable? The only thing I did with that check was buy Express's clothes. Just gonna put it like that. I didn't have that problem at Abercrombie because they put me in the back where it was hot and their AC was always breaking, and I was a person that had to open the boxes and like record the stock they had, what they needed, how many they had of each thing. I didn't really ever go onto the sales floor, and they liked it like that. I mean, they seemed to like tiny people out front and bigger people in back. I don't know if that's everywhere. That was my store. So that was my experience with them. And also too, they don't really sell plus size clothing. I mean, even if they say something is like a size 14, I would bet you hard cash right now that 14 is about that big. So there was that. And in New York & Company, I do feel like that was a little bit of a better company, sort of, but it was all kind of similar. I mean, I didn't push a credit card like I did at Express, but retail, you're around people, and if you have people anxiety and you have crowd anxiety, you don't like people looking at you, and you don't like that phone ringing, do not work for a retail company. Please don't do it. So I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. I know those were big ones for me. Any front desk position, like I'm just letting you guys know, not even at a vet's office, but front desk anywhere, anything that would have phones or answering lots of questions, I would recommend you stepping back if you have anxiety. So I guess the last one, I'm trying to think, yeah, the last one I'm going to mention is a daycare position. So you decide you love kids, and you decide, hey, I'm creative, I love art, I can incorporate that into the classroom. Most daycares, I'm not talking about private daycares, I'm not talking about like Christian daycares that are paid more and they pay their employees more and they have lower ratios, tend to be much better quality. But if you go to some daycares, you guys, there's a reason you're not paying much for that daycare. Classes there are way too many kids in those classes. I don't care what age you look at. There's too many children in that small room. You say, oh, well, the teacher has it organized. The teacher is doing the absolute maximum to just keep the kids from biting each other or, pinching each other for a reaction. I know there are amazing quality teachers out there, but I also know that unfortunately teachers have to struggle more with keeping their kids protected and interested than they do actually really teaching them. And you don't get to do that if you're worried about all this other stuff over here. So I remember working for a daycare where they said there was like a certain ratio. So a ratio is how many kids you should have per teacher. So if the ratio was like 8, it depends on what age group your kids are. It's different everywhere. The lower the ratio, the more expensive, I promise you. So say it was like 8 kids per 1 adult. There'd probably be like 16 kids in a normal class because you would have 2 teachers. Now, that doesn't sound too bad. You're thinking of school, you're thinking of high school, middle school, even elementary school. It doesn't sound that bad. When you put 2-year-olds in that situation, when you put toddlers in that situation, babies in that situation, that's full-time care. That is full-time care for 16 babies and kids, little kids. Like, can you just feel the anxiety waves rolling in? I mean, you're changing diapers, you are passing out snacks, you are cleaning up after these kids. So, like, while your partner is over there, like, wiping down tables and picking up snacks, putting stuff back in lunch boxes, throwing stuff away, wiping off the kids' mouths, you're over there trying to figure out how to entertain all these 16 kids. So, say, okay, well, kids love reading. You pick out a book and you tell everybody, come on and sit down for story time. you're gonna be lucky if 50% of those kids sit down, much less are interested in your book for more than 2 minutes. Because I tell you what, it was so difficult to keep children interested in anything, and I think that's normal. It's nothing against children at all. I mean, they're babies. They like to go from one thing to another, to another, to another, and they're not gonna just sit there like adults and be patient and quiet. It's not gonna happen. But the situation in daycares is like, well, you give us this amount of kids, what are we supposed to do right now? So if you want to be like a teacher, like really teach a child, become a nanny. I think that's a really good job. I mean, I'm not going to go too far into that because I want to ask you guys after I do this video, do you feel like this is a video you would want to see a part 2 of ideas I have for people with anxiety that would be good jobs? I started with this one because this is one I have really experienced hardcore and one I wanted to tell you guys about. I know there are probably so many other jobs out there that are not good for anxiety, but these have been the top few for me. They really have. You know, the medical field, the veterinary field, retail, daycare, and these are also low paying jobs. Low paying jobs. And there is a difference, usually and very sadly, between daycare teacher and veterinary assistant. I'm just going to put that out there. With that being said, veterinary assisting and daycare, unfortunately, don't really compare because of the emergency level and the stress level. I used to think I was maxed out at a daycare. Like, I couldn't even think anymore. And then I tried veterinary assisting. It's a whole nother world, you guys. So you gotta kind of brace yourself for that. You're not gonna get paid like a teacher. They're gonna call you a teacher, they're not gonna get paid like a teacher. And if you are creative and you have any extra aspects to bring to the class, whether that's like photography or crafting, all kinds of stuff you bring to these children that's wonderful, their parents love it, the teachers love it, guess what? You usually don't get a raise. Usually don't. I had a friend who was amazing with her like layouts and her plans of what she's gonna do. I know there's a specific name for it, I can't think of it. And they actually made her like a creative director, I think is what they called her. And so she started doing like the layouts for all the classrooms and helping lots of children learn art. She didn't get any extra, you know? I need to do a whole nother video on that too, but anyway, guys, I think you understand my point. You know, if you're not appreciated, if you don't get good motivation in your job, if your job doesn't give you self-confidence, if you are just wrought with anxiety and you want to go in your car and just stare during your break, you're miserable. You can't handle the amount of people that are there. You can't handle the noise and the phones and doing the things that your job requires, then that may just not be the job field for you. I feel like so many times I work these jobs, I tried and tried and tried to make these things that I could do. And I told myself, if I just try hard enough, if I work hard enough, if I focus hard enough, this will get easier. In a sense it does, because you learn what you're doing, and so you're able to do it repetitively more. Like easier, you don't have to ask other people, but you still have to do it, and you still have to show up to work, and you still have to see these things. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. I hope this made sense. I hope this maybe helped someone that is going through this to know that maybe they should look elsewhere instead of one of these positions. I wish you the best of luck. I know anxiety is super hard. It is difficult to work your life around it, to figure out situations that you are comfortable in. I know the challenge. I am sorry for the challenge because it's a long road, it's a hard road, and you don't have many people that understand you. I just want to say really quickly, there is a huge difference between anxiety and lazy. There is a huge difference, you guys. People cannot help having anxiety. They cannot help it. They did not ask for it. Whatever created it or caused it, whether they were born with it, whether they have experienced it their whole life, whether they started experiencing it last week or yesterday, doesn't make it any easier. It is something that we cannot see, but that millions of Americans are affected with. And they cannot deliver in the same way that someone that does not have anxiety can at the same comfort level. That doesn't mean they cannot do as good. It just means it takes a lot of energy to try to do it, as opposed to, you know, someone who does not struggle with it. So please be compassionate. If you have a friend with anxiety, find out how to support them. Look up, you can Google it, Pinterest it. There's so much information. And use common sense. If you don't think something makes sense that you look up, know that it probably doesn't. Not everything people write is true. That doesn't make them liars. That makes them unexperienced. That makes them not, exactly know what to say. So hang in there, guys. I want to make more videos out there if this helps people. Please give me a thumbs up if this at least helped you in some way. If you enjoyed hearing about this, I will look for that, and if I feel like this video gets enough support, I will do a video of good jobs that I recommend for people with anxiety. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Bye.